for season 3 of Design Thinking Games, we are actually trying to capitalize off a discovery we've made in season 2, which is that we know how to produce a podcast fairly efficiently. So what we ended up doing, being product and tech people, is that we've modularized the entire production of the season so that we actually discover we have a lot more time available to do the things we discovered we enjoyed in season 2, which was like layering in more background music, doing some different kinds of production. So with that in mind, in season 3, we're kind of going ham. So the first big thing is that in season 3, we're an interview podcast now, where I'm pretty sure in season 1 we declared we would never interview another soul. Who needs that? But it just turned out that, like, as we started networking and meeting people, that like we actually have something to learn and talking to these people that's not just kind of like UX design rehash. So being an interview podcast, that's the one part, but we don't want to be a boring interview podcast. And so you're going to hear, like, we created a game, kind of like a rapid fire game called like D12, and everyone's going to play it. As part of that, we have like little segments. And of course, what may or may not be the best or the worst idea, depending on how much work it actually takes us when we're finished with it, is we jumped on the AI train and we had ChatGPT generate an audio drama script about design thinking games that we're going to serialize over the course of the podcast. Basically, Tim and I have chosen to become Saturday afternoon radio hosts with widgets and gadgets, and we have a new jingle, of course, which is something we do every time. But this is going to be a fun season.
It's time for an adventure in the worlds of user experience and game design. On Season 3 of the Design Thinking Games podcast, join old school UXers and aspiring game designers Michael Schofield, Tim Broadwater, and an array of quirky characters, from pixelated heroes to mischievous NPCs, in search of the ultimate player experience. Design thinking is a process that is applied to different types of games in this podcast. If you're wondering whether your favorite games have already come up, you can listen through the backlog at designthinkinggames.com. Now, Rapid Protobot, fire the design thinking laser.
Since last we met, I have been playing. So I've been kind of going back through like the back catalog. So I started immediately with a run to beat Gabriel Knight 2, The Beast Within. We talked about this in one of the prior episodes, but I saw that it was available on Steam for like $5. And so I started playing through it, and I started playing through it on Twitch, and like people are like, what is this weird game with like the static camera and stuff? So I had a lot of fun just kind of talking about all of that. This actually opened up like another rabbit hole where I picked up Titanic, Adventure Out of Time, in which you are like a British like OSS I guess like spy after the World War, and you flash back on your deathbed, spoiler, to when you were on the Titanic and you were looking for the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, and there are some like weird pre-World War I German shenanigans, and it's a whole mystery, and it's like excellent, and I haven't finished it because I find it pretty difficult to beat. So I've been going back kind of like through all of that stuff. I've picked up Regency Call of Cthulhu after seeing like the Good Time Society like play it. I was an English major specifically in Victorian literature, and I love this whole romantic to Victorian period. And so playing like Jane Austen with eldritch stuff, like, oh, we're gonna go play quadrille, but oh no, like the wall, there's no ending to this hallway, and if you keep walking down it, you walk through to the end of time. That's been a lot of fun, and I'm sure there's been like a smattering of others. We played Flourish, which is like a I don't know, a sort of like meditative, sometimes competitive, but mostly cooperative gardening game. I don't really know how to describe it. The goal is to you score points for like laying down stone paths and growing the right flowers, and you're working with the other gardeners to reach a high score. It's it's a pleasant game, but it also has a really pleasant like box feel. Like the artifacts that are inside of it are really neat. And we've played that game a few times since busting it open. And that might be like my winner, like my the winner of PAX Unplugged for me, like after months of it being in hindsight, because that's the game we continue to go to.
Nice.
And I think that's about it. I played a few things. I went back and my son and I have, and I guess my daughter just recently joined and have been playing cooperative Gears of War 5, which has a really nice like campaign. We're all playing on Xbox, and so that's been like kind of like a fun family event as we slaughter the horde of locusts and like saw through their guts together.
I think since last we left off, I mean, Twitter for me has kind of just become useless, except to track the games that I like or play or beat, right? And so I apologize to anyone who follows me on Twitter, because it's just turned into, I beat this. So in that regards, like in the time between the seasons, I played and beat both of the South Park video games, The Stick of Truth and The Fractured But Whole. And those were very fun and enjoyable. I laughed the entire time. I would highly recommend them. I know the first one was an end-of-life console game for the platform, but they're really good. I've been working on for years beating Nino Kuni, just like putting a couple hours into it every so often. It's a really long RPG, but I beat it amazing. I beat Transformers Devastation, was great. Board game-wise, I've played Burano, which is the city building and painting and coloring, where you're building like your neighborhood, but you want to make it as designed as possible to get the best points. A game that we've talked about a little bit is, I know in just chatting back and forth with you, is The Thing, which is there's a pressure because there's all these things like you're dying, you're running out of food, you're trying to keep the lights on, but then there's also a betrayer element, because the thing not only is definitely going to be one of something you interact with or one of the players from the start, but then as you get to alone, as you play the game and a player is alone with another player, they can have a chance of turning into the thing, and at the end you don't know who's the thing or not.
Awesome.
Very cool game. I'm currently playing Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and because I saw it coming out, it looked really good, and so I actually before it I actually beat Fallen Order, and I love it. It's amazing. I think what they're doing with the games and extending like the intellectual property and making it canon, super cool. And I would say to you, like one of the best games that I actually got when we were at PAX Unplugged was Nexus Infernum, the undead game where you make undead, and I've played it. It's really good. That's probably the win for me. And apart from that, like I backed on Kickstarter Casting Shadows. It came in. That's a great game. I finally beat Octopath Traveler because I wanted to play the second one. Arboretum. I know I beat Shadowgate on Switch. I got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. Beat that. Finally beat Medium. I've been telling you about Medium for years, but it's like I finally beat Medium. Yeah, Medium I would highly suggest to you. I don't know if there's ever going to be a sequel, but it's good. As you know, we talked about it a lot last season. I beat Call of the Lamb finally. That was a really hard roguelike game. Kill Unicorns. I know I played that. And then I think the last thing we talked about, Devil in Me, was probably the biggest one, right? Because we beat that in the off season. But honestly, a bunch.
The Thief is a Dungeons & Dragons actual play with just one player, CC Way.
Getting more information, I think, is pretty safe. And I can't let Osmond rot.
And a full cast of NPCs, supported with soundscapes.
This isn't some pickpocket or killer or slumlord. These are important people. These are the kinds of people who, if they get your name, you cannot evade.
The original world is grim, and it is unlikely the thief will survive. Created by Michael Schofield.
Listen for The Thief, an audio drama, anywhere you find podcasts and on the web at thiefpodcast.com.
You just played a horror movie called The Devil in Me. How many survived for you? Because all my died except the dog.
We have a history of just playing all of these super massive games, the Quarry, all of the Dark Pictures anthologies, and during our off season, a new one dropped, The Devil in Me. So we played it, and we have to talk about it. This is it's one of the best parts of these kinds of like point and click adventure games. Is like kind of the hallway conversation. So to your question, I survived with 4 out of 5, and maybe a +1 because I didn't know that the dog survived. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So The Devil in Me is you're people. You're part of a film crew, and you are trapped in basically a kill house with a serial killer who has invested a great deal of capital into being able to rig rooms to close and have all sorts of different traps and stuff in there. Very inspired by the turn of the century serial killer H.H. Holmes. That's not a spoiler. You can see this probably from any of the trailers. And then, like any other of these Dark Picture Anthologies games, you survive, you maintain your friendships as best you can. This strange, like, Undertaker narrator, the curator character, either chastises you or gives you hints and watches bemused as you kill or preserve the people you're responsible for. And it's like any other of the other Dark Pictures anthology games, just a brand new story.
You know, in the first 5 minutes is like, holy shit, this is a serial killer. This is a serial killer kind of murder mysteries, or not a murder mystery, but a survival kind of thing. And that just continues in the second part of the game too. And I know that we were talking back and forth as we were playing this. You said it was your least favorite. I actually thought, as if you describe it very basely as not a story, but just as like survive a horror movie kind of experience, which I thought it was very, it was very that, then I actually kind of enjoyed it because I was like, okay, maybe 4-6 hours in total. We'll see what happens. I'm not totally invested I'll try to find stuff and things, but I'm not going to get worried if someone dies and just kind of ride the roller coaster. That's how I kind of approached it.
Yeah, I'm pretty concerned about keeping everybody alive. It is important to me that I discover everything, and that everybody survives as much as possible. Within the first couple of hours, I think I described to you that like I was having a hard time feeling hooked. Like I did not have like the hooks of the story in me, but I admit, like it took me maybe half the game, but by the time all the stakes had been raised, like I was really enjoying it. I thought the story turned out to be great. I enjoyed the mystery of the big bad. I enjoyed the characters. I liked it I liked all of it. And in fact, there are a few new gameplay elements here. Maybe they're not new, but I don't remember the prior Dark Picture Anthology games doing this, where each character because they were part of a film crew, had like a different device.
No, you were right. That is very new. That was super cool too. I liked it. It's like, oh wait, so you just took a pick a path story and then you added the dynamic of carrying objects around. That's really interesting.
And like one of them was like a sound assistant, and this is my favorite character, this Erin, and she didn't have, like someone had like a camera.
I like the actual thing. One good dude had a credit card he could use to flip and open locks. Someone else had something where she could repair electric boxes, something like that.
Yeah, so it all felt kind of like coherent, and it gave each player or like each character like a slightly different feel. I really liked that the what's it called? It's like a microphone, but it's like a targeted mic or like a laser mic or something like that.
I don't know the name of it, but
But where you can point in direction and really pick up like audio from a distance.
That was the creepiest part of the whole game to me, is when 100%. You were her, and then you're just walking around and you're hearing all these crazy noises, and you keep walking, and then the lights go out, and you're like, oh shit, and you're continuing to walk around, and then you're like, hold on, and you look back and you start to realize the rooms are changing, the halls are changing. And then it's like a total freak out experience. I thought that was very well, like that was like one of the creepiest parts of the game to me.
With the added like amplified sound and the fact that character had had asthma, her heavy breathing, the heartbeat, all the sounds you could hear through the walls, which I thought was scary because like this mic would pick up sounds that are spooky, but you can't see them, right? And they're and so I thought they did like a really great job there. I wish they would have
felt much like a horror movie to me than a game. Yeah. Like honestly, more like a horror movie as possible. You know what I mean?
I think that's probably right. Now one thing I don't know, have you? These dark picture anthologies always offer you an opportunity to play with friends, like a cinematic mode. Have you ever done that?
I've not. I know people who've done it too locally. Like there were two friends on a couch, and they just chose different things for different points. But apart from that, kind of hard to get a lot of people in the same chunk of time to be able to do that. I mean, I don't foresee. It would be cool, but I'm not going to actively look to set it up in my life, So, but I also like that apart from that feature, they always plug in like, well, if you at least beat the game or die, or all your characters die, like mine did, essentially, except the dog, because the dog can die. So, there's the least you get is the trailer for the next game, and the next game seems to be, if you've seen it and you beat it, it's a space story. It's like a drama in space or something.
Yeah, it looks really cool. It's like a science fiction because they're going out to like Tau Ceti. I bet it's going to be like an Alien. Because you made the point that this is very cinematic, and I think in hindsight, each one was more cinematic than the other. House of Ashes did the thing where you were in totally different like locales, and the replayability of House of Ashes. Now, this is one thing I haven't tried with Devil in Me, but House of Ashes did something new where you could replay on your New Game Plus. You could pick different characters to start with.
So story-wise, if you start to talk about, it's like the American Horror Story season conversation, right? Yeah. If you look at this, and I have not played 5, which is the new one, which is the sci-fi space drama we're talking about that just got trailered. But this one, to me, felt emotionally a lot like 2. Like it felt like Little Hope. It felt like I'm playing a horror movie. Now, one's a supernatural horror, like ghost kind of town haunted thing, right? And this is like a murder house, like you said. It is like this person who builds contraptions, and but the feel was that I felt like I was playing a horror film. Like now, the first one with the boat, and then the third one, which was more like an action. I would say like a.
Third one was definitely action, like a survival horror.
It was like 90s horror to me. Like this is like Anaconda, or like this is just like, it kind of felt like, there's a demon in a temple and a military SWAT force gets, in, and but I guess it's a different. Maybe it's just what's appealing to me is haunted town and serial killer, where it's a different flavor, I guess, each chapter, because we'll see with the space one.
The one thing that's like, so on finishing it, like we'd been talking over the prior 3 games about like what is the through line, like is this part of like a shared universe? And I actually kind of emerged from this one thinking no.
Because I thought, did you see the thing where the thing pounded on the death's door, the curator's door?
That was baffling. I'm curious what you think, like what the whole like what's your theory for like the...
There's a theory that I have, and it's not substantiated in any way. It's just because American Gods is so popular right now, and like Neil Gaiman and his The Sandman, which I don't know if you know much about it, but it's like there's different deities. There's like dream, and there's death, and there's desire and despair, and and it just makes me feel like season 2 starts off with a space sci-fi drama, right? And something in the we've never seen another living anything in the world of the curator, and so it's like if he's a deity, then it's like that. So, there you go, the Sandman.
Like the picture.
Yeah,
I have all the legendary editions of the Sandman, like in the leather-bound cases. So
nice.
Depending on your discovery throughout the games, you would either end up in a story that was truly supernatural, or you understand the practical rationale behind it. Now, in House of Ashes, that wasn't the case. There were vampires in those caves. As far as I know.
We're going through levels of rationality, right? The first one is like, oh, this is a mind-altering substance. The second one is like, this is a psychological condition, like someone's schizophrenic or whatever. The third one is like, aliens? And then like the fourth one is like it's just a serial killer fan of a serial killer,
Did he's a fan of a serial killer with multiple personalities, right? Or many assumed masks that he wears, to be literal. Now I feel like I got like a B+ on the game, like whereas you, I think just like D-. Like you made it to the end.
I definitely got the dog out, so I was a D-.
At the end, I think my people successfully killed the serial killer.
At the end of the credits, he still grabs the mask, though.
I know.
Or they say, is it him or is it someone else grabbing the mask?
They don't know. They were pretty sure. Like people were starting to ask, like during, like the characters were asking themselves, like, is this is too much for one person? There has to be
if you look at American Horror Story, and they do like Murder House, and then Asylum, and then they do Coven, and then Freak Show, and Apocalypse. I mean, they have character returns and revisits of stories. And so the only reason I'm saying is I agree with you. It's kind of getting harder to see the connections in between. And so the first 3 are obviously connected because they draw a line to one another. And none of the clues that I found in Devil in Me did I find any connections to the 3 previous games. Now, there was one point where they were talking about a ship, and I was like, was that ship the name of the ship? But I don't know if that's, I can't remember. So
I want to play through it because I think there's a possibility that there were like a whole bunch of mind-altering substances in the murder house. And the other thing that occurs to me, like the only way I could see this having like a through line toward the end is that in the next game, which I might have mistaken, but they said the premiere of season 2 is the next game.
Correct. Season 2, the space one. Yeah.
Like, I wonder if like the space one,
is the future of some of these stories.
They fuck with something in like the Tau Ceti cluster, right? And it really is like a whole like alien or there's a multi-dimensional shift or something. But I'm starting to withdraw from the idea that these are connected.
I'm now starting on the 4th one, dude. You can't help to do this if you're a UX person, or maybe even a game designer. I don't think you can help this if you're a UX person or a game person, if you think that way analytically or interactively. And so I think of the dark picture games as like a product line now and a product. And I was like, dude, you've got people choosing stories, replaying, playing with friends. It's a movie-like experience. You can tell different scary, spooky stories and have different things going on. And people, I think, are here for it. They love it, and so they want to know what the different stories are, and they want to know how they messed up. And some people want to replay, but other people will play it once. And, so I'm a fan of the product line. I will say it that way.
I agree. Yeah, and the things they did in this game, which I hope they continue to lean in on, are giving each character a different feel to them, giving them actual different devices. I do wish they would have leaned on that more. For instance, the idea with Charlie and his ability to pick a lock with his credit card. How cool would it be that you could revisit different locales as Charlie and discover even more things? So I think there's a real opportunity there that I kind of hope they lean in on. I liked it a lot. I do want to say that I thought their design choice and how they presented QuickTime events this time around, which I guess I don't really recall if they were much different, but this is the first time I played it on a PC instead of a console. And I thought the QuickTime event design sucked. I had a hard time distinguishing right click from left click, right? And it was a buggy experience for me where you would hear the prompt of but there was no visual. So for me,
it's always weird because it's PlayStation, so it always pops up as these areas at square, triangle, circle, or X, and so you have to guess at the last minute and hit the right one. And so they change it up like that, and it's what the fuck? And it's based on if you're dodging left or right, or sometimes it's the reverse, and it's so it's not. I think their answer from a dev standpoint would be well, that's why we have the easy mode as well as the probably would be.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah. But when it's the death of a character based on it, all my characters died really badly. So
yeah.
All right, how do you play?
I'm going to give you 3 nouns, and you have to pick which you're going to fuck, marry, or kill.
Okay, I'm game. Let's play.
Okay, agile methodology, waterfall, or lean?
I don't know what those are. UX FMK is the hottest UX book on this side of the internet. Tim Broadwater, our very own certified UX unicorn, takes the all-too-familiar premise of the original FMK game and wrote a book that invites you to take a deep dive into UX, what doesn't work, and how royally things can be screwed up.
Listen on Audible or pick up UX FMK anywhere books are sold, but especially Amazon.
Let's start maybe with the history of the challenge, right? So, season 1, you challenged me to play Mass Effect Legendary Edition. And then in the time of the whole season, I went through the first game and then sped through the second game. But played it, legitimately played the whole game, both 1 and 2. And we talked about it at the end of season 1. I'm glad I did. I actually have now realized some things that I now enjoy that came from that genre of game.
Oh, interesting.
I'm not playing. And then I actually kind of trend on the side of sci-fi a little bit anyways, because as you know, I like Event Horizon. Horizon Zero Dawn. I mean, not Event Horizon. I do like Event Horizon, the horror movie, Hellraiser in Space. But yeah, but I also love Tears of the Kingdom, as well as kind of Skyward Sword and like Breath of the Wild and Zelda. And I don't know if you know that, but that's like high fantasy sci-fi. It's kind of more like Thundar the Barbarian, sci-fi fantasy, or and so I love it. And then that was season 1.
Well, yeah, in season 2, we flipped the script a little bit, realizing that this was a thing that we were going to keep doing, and you challenged me to play Moonlighter. Moonlighter is a roguelike. It really ended up being a quite like charming game, but it's something that I wouldn't even like look at, let alone like invest my time in. And it was hard, and it required a different kind of skill set and different kind of like muscle, like gaming muscle that I usually don't use. And so I played that, and I beat that, and I came out of I came out of season 2 with a whole new respect for that style of games, and now it's something that like Steam recommends to me because I ranked it so highly. It was a great game, great story too, a story I didn't actually expect to give a shit about.
I think we even mentioned it the last season, in season 2, that we should definitely, I think we actually recorded it, and it was in the last episode, that we should both do something in season 3.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing. A new game emerged that, over the course of our journey together, we identify as one that is squarely in both of our wheelhouses.
Yeah.
And for season 3, we are both going to play and maybe beat, if beat is a thing you can do, the Outlast Trials. TLDR is that this is it's not quite a sequel, but this is a MOBA in the style of maybe like Dead by Daylight or Friday the 13th, set in the world of Outlast, which Tim and I both beat in our prior video gaming lives. And Outlast went viral back in the early days
of streaming, actually.
Of streaming, for being just terrifying.
Like people watching it and not even playing the game, but only people watching other people play the game and freaking out.
Yeah, it wouldn't even be like a video capture of like what was on the screen, but it was usually, in my memory, night vision, like Titans on the observer's face while they freaked out and got scared. And I think Outlast was kind of like occupied a special place. I really liked it compared to some of the other things that have come out, because it's not a game that you can fight your way through, and that's a constraint that really appealed to me.
We talked about this, I think it was in season 1 maybe, to where we actually said, the scary part of it is that all you can do is run and hide. There is no fighting back, right? And so that is a huge creep factor. When you start giving people guns, like Resident Evil, right? And you start giving people weapons and things, then it kind of changes the dynamic. But here, we've talked about how games really restrict some of your interactions or concepts or mechanics to make it harder, and that's what Outlast does. And I've played I played them in the release order, not the chronological order, right?
Oh yeah.
So I played Outlast, and then I played the sequel to it, Outlast 2, and then I played Whistleblower, which I think Whistleblower was the prequel
right?
that came before Outlast. And then this Outlast Trials, to the best of my understanding, it is a prequel to even that. And I, knowing we were going to do this, I went ahead and downloaded it, and I got through the tutorial, and I played one online game so far.
Oh, you already beat me. No, I bought it. I have it downloaded. But all I've done is like read the synopsis, watch the trailers, and look at screenshots. So you're already like a leg deep. But I think you're totally right, because it takes place during the Cold War, or in that kind of like time frame. Yeah. And you are one of the many subjects of kind of like the mad doctor of the asylum there, Murkoff.
Yeah, so you're right, and I don't think this gives away anything, because this is in the trailer, kind of, I think, as well as like the tutorial, is that it is that time period. This is when the mad military science happening at mental institutions is a thing, and the people who are pulled in, who were, in Outlast, you are an investigator going in, like you're a reporter. The sequel, you're like a husband and wife kind of thing. And in Outlast Whistleblower, you're an inside employee who's trying to get word outside of what's happened, and you're getting the reporter in the first one. So it's kind of a closed loop, right?
Yeah.
So in this one, you are homeless people, communists, hippies, like people who would be put into prison, like in the 50s or 40s. And those people are recruited against their will, and then they're put through the first version of what so this game, the Outlast Trials, literally is the first trials of this kind of human experimentation. What can we do? What can we? Yeah. What can people survive? That kind of thing.
From what I understand, so I haven't played it, but from what I understand, kind of like the ethic of the game, where you can hide, you can evade, maybe you can slow the bad guy down, but it's not like you're going to do a lot of fighting back. Has been is kind of like the defining feature of this game. This is actually kind of similar, I imagine, because I don't play like a ton of these, but like when you're one of the campers in Friday the 13th, or you're one of the people in Dead by Daylight, you can't really fight back against the big bad.
Yeah.
Can I ask, are players, like human players, the kind of like the antagonists or the bad guys, or is it all?
So you're like, it's kind of like you're in squads of 4. So think of it like awesome. Weird Science, Gladiator Ring, or maybe even like Hypercube, or like the movie Cube, sci-fi movie. So it's like 4 of you you're all patients that are trapped in this facility, and you basically, to get better rights or better living conditions as a mental patient, you have to do this stuff to get food and to get better clothes and a room, and so they truly treat it to where like you're prisoners, you know what I mean? And then you have to kind of go in, and you're going in with other people, 2 to 4 people, and you are trying to do these together. So that's the level of complexity that's really interesting, because you've played Outlast, I've played Outlast. You can only run, you can only hide, and it's crazy, right? And now it's like, okay, now what if there's 4 of you in the same situation, but you're trying to accomplish something? You can be killed. Half your team, your whole team can be killed. You know what I mean? Someone can hide there. So it's basically adding the MOBA agency and kind of experience over top of Outlast. I have not experimented with any of the chat, because I don't know. I think it has its like Alien, Fire Team, and Friday the 13th. It has chat built into it, like audio chat, not like DBD, where people get on Discord and kind of cheat. They do kind of cheat, but yeah.
That's cool, because like I like the idea that if they do it right, then you and I might be like on one side of the room, each hiding, and we can't communicate, right? Because if we speak up, we could be heard. Look, what are the parameters of this challenge? Is our goal to defeat, like, so there's like kind of like a main storyline, and then there's a whole bunch of there's like a circumference of different like challenges and stuff. Should we go hard and say like we're going to try to compete to the main storyline? And I say this without knowing exactly how deep it is. Like,
so the beautiful thing, to my understanding, is you're still going to beat the game. That's it.
Yeah.
And so you can do this as solo, or you can play it online with other people. But there's still X chapters to the story, and so the chapters can just be played solo or online. So, kind of gives us the increased difficulty by doing it online, or increased creepiness by doing it solo. So it's kind of
the other thing we should do with this, just to put it in the world, is like we should totally stream this together. We're not streamers. We don't like have like streamer followings or whatever.
Nothing like that. Yeah.
If we articulate it into the ether, then we have to make it so.
But it would be cool if we played it online and put that up for recording and at least shared it out at some point.
100%.
Even if it gets reduced down to a blooper reel of just like, oh fuck, shit, oh god,
Awesome, man. Well, I'm excited to play this. We'll be reporting in throughout the course of the season. And if you guys follow us in various socials, you might see us complaining or celebrating this game as we go. But being a challenge, if this turns out like it sucks, it doesn't matter. We're going to beat the game.
Yeah, that's there's parts of Outlast that I've had to play many times because I didn't know what to do and it was so difficult. And then I feel like you can always run and hide and you have to wait and then you can kind of try again. But so there's probably going to be a lot of that.
Awesome.
As the listeners may know, last year, we were doing a Patreon, and if you supported us on Patreon, you got the episodes ad-free and early, which was cool.
Anyone who's been like listening with us from season 1 and who will enjoy season 3 know that we are iterating a lot, and one of the big things we're iterating on is like what we're spending time on. There's probably like a whole interesting episode or like side thing about like why we chose to back off Patreon, but we backed off Patreon. We would love it if people would donate to us.
Please head over there and support us if you like. We're gonna put some content and stuff there, but it's not going to be exclusive.
Welcome to the Design Thinking Games Conference, where games of all types are carefully prototyped and designed for the maximum player experience.
Man, it's been a hell of a trek to get here. Hold on, little guy. You'll have your time to shine. You're the big reveal.
You think Rapid Protobot is ready?
We playtested the heck out of it.
We need to do more playtesting around stealth, I guess.
All right, there's our booth. Let's set up.
Design Thinking LARPing is a story about heroism. The script is written by a poorly trained AI, and it is performed by your poorly trained heroes. Enjoy!
Thank you for joining us at the Design Thinking Games booth. We know how hard it is to write good instructions to really understand what makes an optimal player experience, and we are finally ready to reveal what 3 seasons of this shit has taught us. Go on. Introduce yourself.
I am Rapid Protobot. How may I help Prototype?
This is really fascinating, but what does that actually do?
I help design infallible playtests. You can develop your game in 1/2 of the time.
Will it destroy us?
No! Destroy.
Good one.
It was joking, right?
What about LARPs? You know, a live action roleplay? Can your robot help us playtest these?
LARPs aren't real.
That is what you think design thinking games. That is what you only wish were true. LARPs are very, very real, and you're about to find out just how real they are.
What's happening?
I don't know.
I can't see anything in the chaos.
Find out in the next episode of Design Thinking Games the fate of our heroes, Tim, Michael, and, of course, Rapid Protobot, the most delightful of the three. This story continues.
Thank you for listening and connecting with Design Thinking Games on TikTok, Twitch, and Twitter. You can also check out designthinkinggames.com to request topics, ask questions, or see what else is going on. Until next time, game on. Any final thoughts for our listeners, Rapid Protobot?
Destroy. Destroy.